Barak Yahawah, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rawchaa Qadash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Part 3. Deuteronomy chapter 28. This should be the final segment to this lesson. And I pray that it's been edifying. I pray that it is edifying. I pray that you brothers and few sisters read up on Mary of Beth, I forget, Beth Subaro, I believe it was. You know, the woman in the Roman Empire that they gave an account. And when you read the account, it says that there was only one, that's only one account, you know, out of all the different accounts. That was just one account that was told of a woman in the Roman Empire siege of 70 AD that ate her baby. You know, so I pray that you brothers and few sisters went and checked that out. You know, as well as the other references in the scriptures. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off in Deuteronomy chapter 28, where we left off. This was actually, you know, a good series, Barak Yahawah, and I thank the brother for putting that comment, because, you know, this is like, it's not an in-depth breakdown, but it is, you know, going, you know, through the curses and giving an explanation and explaining to you that, you know, when you read about these curses, as per the 44th and 45th verse, it applies to all of the different captivities that we've been into, depending on if we were in the land, if we had substance or not. Every curse didn't apply to every captivity, because in every captivity we were in different situations, you know. So Deuteronomy 28:58, it says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name, the Lord Yahawah, thy power. Today we say Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi, because our connection to the Father, Yahawah, is through his Son Yahawashi. And here the Lord is reiterating what was stated in the 15th verse. If you will not listen and hearken, you know, to what? To fear this glorious and fearful name. That's why the curses came upon us, because we lost that fear, you know. And Jake today does not fear the Lord, you know, and that's the missing ingredient, one of the missing ingredients. And that's why they do whatever the hell they want to do. I was just watching the latter part of the video Elder Apostle R put up with these women, and that Janelle Monáe, I knew she was a real demon, you know. And I only saw, like I said, I caught the last part because I tuned in around 58 minutes or 57 minutes at the very end. I didn't even know the apostle was live, or actually premiering live. Pretty much same thing. And I caught the last part of it where he was showing the video, different clips of the video, and they have this is on YouTube, an actual clip of her with her breasts out. I'm talking about not covered up, just her breasts completely out, nipples, everything, you know, hanging out there, and the immorality. But that's what's, you know, that's the sentiment that's pushed out here. Why? Because Jake doesn't fear the Lord, you know. So it says, if you will not fear this glorious name Yahawah, today Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful. And let's look up this word wonderful. We're going to read a couple of verses to about the 61st verse, and then go through a few precepts dealing with kings. Let's look up the word wonderful. The word there is pala'ath, which ath is definitely. So whenever you see that word ath, the I and the tha together, in most places it's a representation of this definitely happened. When you read Genesis, the first chapter, you'll see a lot of places when you start reading Bara'ashath, Bara'alahayim, in certain places you'll see the ath together, this word right here, or this these two letters right here. These two right here, Ath. Why Ath is and definitely. It means definitely, that these things definitely happen. So like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. Let me get out of that. Let me just put something else on. Matter of fact, see what this is about. Just got to get past these goddamn commercials. All right, so that's what that means. So let's go to the word wonderful, pala'ah. And pala'ah means to be marvelous, be wonderful, be surpassing, be extraordinary. See? So the things that came upon us were extraordinary. Why? Because they were directly from Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi. And when Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi decrees something, only he can pull it back. All of the physicians, all of the herbs and all of their benefits and the, and the virtues of roots and the healing powers of flowers and all that can't heal someone unless it's sanctioned by the Lord Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi. All right, separate by distinguishing action, right? And there are certain diseases that are on Jake, and that that's a Jake, because Jake pretty much goes to the same things. These are distinguishing marks. It says to be beyond one's power. Why? Because see, today we lost this power, the power of the healing herbs and the virtues of roots and flowers and just different things we lost, which we're getting back to a certain degree, but we still are lacking in that field because we only know so much. I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, I'm just sharing a few things. But you brothers that are out there and few sisters, invest in your health. Do it now. Don't wait till you start feeling the aches and the pains and being all jacked up before you start to do something about it. And you're in a privileged position through the Spirit and power of Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi, through the Rawchaa Qadash, which is the Holy Spirit, to not only know the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the true breakdowns of the scriptures, but also, you also know how to research, the benefits of herbs, the benefits of diet, to make better decisions as far as eating is concerned, the benefits of exercising, intermittent fasting, and all of these things. So you shouldn't wait just because you feel good now. You shouldn't wait till your body starts breaking down and rebelling against you before you start, applying the things that you learned. See, unlike us, we didn't have this back then. Even though we came across it, the Spirit was working with us to, learn about certain things. We weren't learning about diet and, herbs and, some of us worked out, so that, and as far as that's concerned, some of us always, worked out, but as far as, what you're learning now, you're in a very privileged position through the Spirit and power of Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi to know these things and to be reminded of the importance of these things, keeping under your body pretty much. All right, so pretty much to be beyond one's power. So it says, and the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful and the plagues of thy seed, because these are generational things that come upon us. Even great plagues, see? Great plagues all throughout history. Jake been catching it. You bring it all the way up to the medieval times. You have the bubonic and the pneumonic plague, which were nothing. Those weren't new diseases. They just had new names. But these were diseases from the past, that resurfaced, but they came back even more powerful. It says, and of long continuance, yes, because some of these diseases are of long continuance. You see people catching hell for years with the same ailment. Hey, remember when we go to the time of Yahawashi, You had people that the woman had an infirmity of issue of blood for what, 38 years, I believe it was. You had other men that had disease, that have been diseased all their life, till Yahawashi came. Some were lame on their feet. Some couldn't see. Some couldn't hear. Some couldn't speak. All different types of ailments, all the way up to present day. They have a lot of different names today, but it's pretty much surrounds, around the same thing. It says, and sore sicknesses. Yep, sore sicknesses. You can't get around it. Let's look up this word sore. Sore, the word is rai, which is evil. Evil sicknesses. To bad, evil, see? Disagreeable, malignant. Because when the body is diseased, it's not at ease. This is no or not, and ease is ease, not at ease. So these diseases means that the immune system is not in service properly. That's what the word immune means. Elder Apostle Gabar broke it down. It says, in sore sicknesses and of long continuance. And these were some take long periods of time, for people to finally break down and die. So it goes on to say, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, because our forefathers witnessed a lot of things going on in Egypt, disease-wise, and diseases that Jake was afraid of, that the Most High took care of Jake back then from. He didn't allow those things to come upon Jake back then. And they were afraid of those diseases, because Jake were the servants, the slaves. They were out working in that hot-ass sun, sweating all them toxins out, eating watermelon and leeks and garlic, keeping their potassium levels up. Hit. It says, which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. See? So these diseases will cleave unto Jake. And this, not only going into slavery, not only catching hell, not only being the last hired, first fired, not only being, your money situation jacked up, working, and pretty much just barely surviving. Some Jakes, believe it or not, even to this day, barely have enough to eat from day to day. But also on top of that, diseases and sicknesses. The curses are real. Anybody with a half a brain, would fear the Lord and give glory and thanks to Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi. It says also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law. This is where you have your autoimmune diseases, your Parkinson's and your AIDS and Alzheimer's, just different diseases that people, MS, lupus, sickle cell, all of that, that people cringe when they hear and hope that doesn't come upon them. See? Which is not written in the book of this law. Them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. Go to any emergency room throughout the country, and just in America alone, not even dealing with other countries. And you'll see what? Jake in there. So-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, so-called Native American Indians, catching hell from these diseases. And these devils, the scripture say we shall eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles, and these devils are messing everything up, tearing everybody up, tearing them out the frame. It says, just bear with me 1 second. It says, and you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude. And you know what? I'm going to come back to this verse. So what I'm going to do is now we're going to hit a couple of precepts on certain kings that were hit with certain diseases, to show you that the curses are real. Let's go to the book of, just bear with me, 2 Chronicles 16. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 16 and 11. It says, and behold, the acts of Asa. Asa was a king in Judah, first and last. Lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa, in the 39th year of his reign, was diseased in his feet. See, he had a disease in his feet. You know, like sometimes you'll have people that have like these knots on their foot, or they might have what they call elephantitis, swollen ankles, which is usually, you know, heart or kidney, you know, different, you know, depending on what it is. You know, they have gout. It says, until his disease was what? Exceeding great, as the Lord said. Yet in his disease he sought not the Lord Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi, but to the physicians. And this is very important. First and foremost, we have to pray to Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi for healings. You know? Then from there you can take it to the next step. But other than that, you know, if you go any other route, the matter of fact, there was another king, I believe he was diseased. I can't remember who it was. And he sought to, he sent his servants to go and ask Baal something, you know, to heal him. And the Lord killed his ass, you know. It says, and Asa slept with his fathers and died in the 140th year of his reign. And when you read further up in Deuteronomy 28, it speaks about the different diseases also. All right? The botcher, the knees, and all of that. It says, and they buried him in his own sepulchre, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed, which was filled with sweet odors and divers kinds of spices prepared by the apothecary's art. And they made a very great burning for him. All right. Now, matter of fact, just bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Okay. Now, let's go from there. Let's go to another king. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 38 and verse 1. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, came unto him and said unto him, thus saith the Lord, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. Now, I'm not sure if, because I was trying to look for it, there was another, I thought it was Hezekiah, I could be wrong. He had a boil in his feet, and the Lord, I believe it was Isaiah, told Isaiah to, you know, to go get some fig, and they made like a plaster of it and put it on the boil, and the king got healed. But I don't remember if it was Hezekiah or not. It says, then Hezekiah turned his face toward the wall and prayed unto what? Unto the Lord Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi, as to where Asa went directly to the physicians, and the other king went to the, you know, to the gods of the other nations. Hezekiah, which was the righteous king, prayed unto the Most High Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi first and foremost, and said, remember now, O Lord Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Then came the word of the Lord to Isaiah, saying, go and say to Hezekiah, thus saith the Lord, the power of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will add unto thy days 15 years. All right, brother brought it up. The water, brother. 2 Kings 20 and 7. And Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. And so it was Hezekiah. Hey, Barak, how about Shemashah? And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, that I shall go up into the house of the Lord in the third day? And I believe that was to turn the sun back 10 degrees, I believe it was, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so that was a second example of a righteous. This was a righteous king. Now the next example. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 21. And we're going to start at 1. We're going to jump around a little bit. Now this is Jehoram, which was the son of Jehoshaphat. Now Jehoshaphat was a righteous king. And he was the only reason why the Lord delivered him at that time. It was Asa, I'm sorry, not Asa, it was Ahab, Jehoshaphat, and the king of Edom. And the Lord said, had it not been for Jehoshaphat, that's the only reason why the Lord delivered them out of that situation, was because of Jehoshaphat, a righteous king of Judah. Now Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Jehoram, his son, reigned in his stead. Now Jehoram was the king. He was wicked as hell. And this is when Esau rebelled from Jake, pursuant to the scripture in Genesis, the 27th chapter, where it says, when you shall have the dominion, you shall break the yoke, or something along those lines. That's what it goes back to. His son reigned in his stead. All right, you can read the whole story. Now I'm going to jump down to the 14th verse. It says, behold, with a great plague will the Lord smite thy people and thy children and thy wives and all thy goods. So this is the Lord telling him he's going to be hit with this plague. Because what happened was, his father, Jehoshaphat, had many sons, and those sons were all righteous. And this ninja here killed him. You know, he had him put to death. And he did a lot of wicked shit, you know, when you read the history. And thou shalt have great sickness by disease of thy what? Bowels. That's terrible. That's a terrible disease, man. The disease of the bowels. You know, remember that Herod that gave that great oration, and they said the gods had spoken, and he didn't give praise to the Most High. The Most High hit him, and the worms ate his ass from the inside out. Same thing with Antiochus Epiphanes. So he got hit with a disease of the bowels. You know, and when you have hemorrhoids, that's your intestines coming out of your anal cavity. You know, Salakia, there's no other better way to say it. You know, that's a lack of fiber and other stuff, you know, going on. And like I said, whatever situation you find yourself in, first thing is prayer to Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi. And then if you know what it is, you can, you know, research to find out information on it, you know, or, you know, in the case if you need instant relief, you know, you may ask a brother to help you in your situation, because it's hard to do research, you know, when you're in pain, you know. It's hard to look stuff up when, you know, you can't even think straight, you know. So it says, until thy bowels fall out, see, by reason of the sickness day by day. So his intestines came out, you know, of him. So that's now let's jump down to the 18th verse. It says, and after all this, the Lord smote him in his bowels with an incurable disease. See, so it was incurable. Why? Because it came directly from Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi. And it came to pass that in the process of time, after the end of what? 2 years, a long continuance, his bowels fell out by reason of his sickness. So he died of sore diseases, and his people made no burning for him, like the burning of his fathers. You know, because he was a wicked king, man. I was reading about it earlier. You know, he did a lot of shit. You know, one of the main things was he killed, you know, all of his brothers. You know, the king's sons, which were greater than him. You know. Oh, and that's another thing. This ninja was married to Ahab's daughter. You know, Ahab was wicked. His woman Jezebel, which was a Hamite, she was wicked. So, you know, their daughter was wicked as all sin. All right, so now the last example of a king We're going to go to 2nd Chronicles, same book, 26. And we're going to go to the 19th verse. It says, Then Uzziah, this is another wicked king, which was king of Judah, was wroth and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was wroth with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of the Lord from beside the incense altar. So the Lord caused leprosy to rise up. He didn't even know because it was on his forehead. He couldn't see it. But the people that were there, the priests, they saw it. And Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from thence. Yea, himself hasted also to go out, because the Lord had smitten him. See? So this was directly from the Lord. Remember, the curses are real. It says, And Uzziah the king was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord. And Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. See? So these are just different examples of different diseases that we're reading about in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. All right. Now let's go to the 62nd verse, Deuteronomy 28:62. And you shall be left few in number. Now why should you? Because you had these knuckleheads. You know, these are only black Israelites individuals that only the Israelites are black individuals that say that this proves that the Latin tribes can't be, and the North American Indians can't be Israelites, because it said you shall be left few in number. Well, why were they left few in number? Well, first and foremost, they were hit with different diseases, but the major portion of that is because they were scattered among the nations. So they were left few in number where? In the land. Do you understand that? Even to this day, there are very few. There is a lot of Israelites in that land, but there are very few in comparison to the nation of Israel and the great multitude of the nation of Israel that's scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Do you understand that? And that's the reason why. It says, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. So they were scattered. You know? And it's going to go into it as you go further down. But before we read on, let's go to 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, and the 16th verse we're going to start at. It says, And they left all the commandments of the Lord their power. And remember, Yahawah warned Jake what would happen if they left the way of the Lord and forsook his laws, statutes, commandments, and didn't listen. The Lord said that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, and made them what? Molten images, one of the main things that the Most High hates. Even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. Even so much as that one king looked to, oh, there we go. Hey, man, this brother, I don't know. Same brother. All right. Water, my brother. All right. Here we go. So this was, who was he? Ahaziah. He fell sick. And he said, what? That you go inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, which Beelzebub is the Lord of the Flies. Matter of fact, my brother, just give me a second here. I just made you a moderator on the channel. So now if there's any bugs or roaches, you can exterminate them. So that's what they did. It says, And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divinations and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. So there were few left in the land. That's what Deuteronomy 28:62 is talking about. Not that you're going to be a small number of people from a great multitude. It says, also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord, their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into what? Into the hand of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. That's why it said that the Lord would, make them small, meaning they would be scattered everywhere that they would be brought to. They would be scattered. All right? Now, let's go from there. Let's go to Ezekiel 11. And we're going to start at the 16th verse. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord power, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come. See? So no longer were we going to be a multitude in the land. We would be small remnant among all the nations. That's why that's written. You will be few in number. Because the Lord promised Abraham that his seed shall be as the stars of heaven and as the sands of the sea, meaning innumerable. But we're just scattered, small portions here and there. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord power, I will even gather you from the people. This is why. And assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered. And I will give you the land of Israel. All right? So now you understand what that means. So going back, and you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoice over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. This is why you shall be left few in number, because there will not be a whole lot of Israelites in that land. And eventually, 170 AD rolled around, Yahawashi prophesied that, the land of Israel, Jerusalem, shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So even unto this very day, you have heathens that are in the land of Israel right now, that are possessing that land. And you have few Israelites there, but not as many as there were back in the days. That's what this is talking about in the 62nd verse, 63rd verse. It explains it. All right, now moving on. Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the, that's where you get the word diaspora from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And we're on the other side of the earth. Israelites really settled in this side of the earth after 724 BC during the Assyrian captivity. What year exactly they came over here? It was around that time period. We don't know for sure exactly what year, but we know it was close to it because they took a counsel among the Assyrians to come to a further country where never mankind dwelt. And that would be over here, the Americas, so-called Americas, the land of Ophir, or Arsareth, which means another country. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. This is a representation of these churches today. Now, when you go back to when the so-called Latin tribes, pretty much all Indian tribes were here, they pretty much were worshiping different gods, But now, to bring it up to date, it's talking about these churches. And who's the main ones, stomping for sweet Jesus in these churches? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and then the other tribes, Ephraim, so on and so forth. You see them staunchly in there. Look, if it wasn't for Jake, this country would fall. If it wasn't for Jake, these religions would fall. If it wasn't for Jake, Esau would fall. You know, Jake is the one that's keeping him propped up. And you've seen that with this guy, Elder Mike, or whatever his title is, with the debate with Tazaryak. You know? He knows how to navigate around the scriptures, but he doesn't understand the scriptures. That's the point. You know? He's trying to bring this scripture and that scripture, and he doesn't understand it. You know? It says, and among, let's go from there now to Hosea, because it said the Lord will scatter us among all nations, and we shall serve wood and stone. Hosea chapter 8 and verse 8, it says Israel is swallowed up. What does it mean by swallowed up? Meaning they were pretty much detached from, pretty much from the truth, and consumed by these nations. You know what, Salaki, for a minute. I need a good playlist. All right. To swallow down, swallow up, engulf, eat up. See, so we were engulfed by our enemies. So much so that in certain empires, Jake forgot that who they were. Namely, the Greek Empire, and today, the so-called American Empire. So, Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. Why? Because the Most High doesn't take pleasure in these vessels out here that Jake is in. You think the Lord is going to dwell in these people that are out here in the fashion and the mannerisms that they're in the way they're behaving themselves? They have to be changed. For the most part, the majority of Jake in America is going to be slain by the Lord. They're going to be deleted. You know, the Lord has to tap an individual out there that has to be of the elect in order to remove them from that, madness, that blindness that they're in, especially in these times today. So let's go from there to James chapter 1. Let me see if it'll come up this way. Yep. James chapter 1 and 1. James, a servant of Yahawah and the Lord Yahawashi, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. And this is all the way in the New Testament. This had to be, I'm not sure what year this book was written. It had to be possibly the 50 AD, around there. I would have to go back and check it again. So even to this very time they were scattered. So how much more now, 2,000 years in the future? All right. So going back to Deuteronomy 28 and 65, it says, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. Right. And you see that with Jake. No rest. And the ones that are, let's say the ones that are hard working, they got to work 2 or 3 jobs just to maintain, just to keep a roof over their head and pay their bills and keep their families fed. You have no time for anything else but work, eat, and sleep. And then those young Jakes that are out there that are roaming the streets, they got to be careful that the cops don't come and blow them away. They got to be careful that other Jakes don't come and blow them away. When you go to among these nations, they're not giving you any rest. There was a situation where was it out there in LA. I can't remember what year that was. If brothers know what year it was, you can help me out. Where that Korean lady shot that Jake girl because she thought she was stealing or something like that. And I believe the Korean lady got away with it. So there was a lot of injustices done to Jake without any, form of justice. But these are all the Lord. This is the Lord's doing. That's why the scriptures say that the dogs lick the sores. In the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, the dogs represent these other nations, which benefit off of Jake's backs in these different, neighborhoods, and that's scripture. It says, but the Lord shall give thee there what? A trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Yeah, because you have a lot of Jakes out here that don't know what's going on, and they've lost all hope. Okay, let me see. The brother said 1991, Latasha, Harlan, South Central LA. Beautiful. The water, brother. Oh, he said 1976. Okay. I figured it was back then, somewhere around. So brother said one brother said 1991, the other brother said 1976. So it was back then. It was after the Watts riots. All right. It says, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. Right. So Jake's life hangs in doubt before them. And thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. Right. So it was 91 then. All right. And none assurance of thy life. Okay, she was born in 76. All right, no problem, brother. We working out the kinks. All right, so you shall have none assurance of thy life. It says, in the morning thou shalt say, would the Most High were even? Meaning, when you get up in the morning, Lord's will make it to the evening. And at evening thou shalt say, with the Most High it were morning. Lord's will, when you get to the evening, Lord's will, we make it to the morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Why? Because we are operating today in the land of the shadow of death. Psalms 23 and 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. This is dealing with America. You know why? Because King David back then, he was kicking ass of these other nations. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So because King David was a prophet, so he saw the future. Ezekiel saw the future. He saw Jake in America, the valley of the shadow of death. But in his case, he called it a valley of dry bones. Why? Because of the condition, the dry condition Jake was in, without the truth. They were not clothed. They were clothed with strange apparel. And even when they did come together, they came together without no breath. They didn't, they came together with the right mindset as far as coming together as one, as a people, with the same problems, same oppressive individual, but they didn't have the proper breath because they didn't have the right stuff. That's why those things didn't prosper. Like Gamaliel said, if this work be of men, it will come to naught, but if it be of the Most High, you will not be able to overthrow it. So it says, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. So Yahawah is with us. Yahawashi said, I am with you always, even unto the end. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me, which represents the truth. This rod, which is correction, which is the truth, and the staff is something that you use to lean on, which is the truth, shall they comfort me. That's why Yahawashi said, if he didn't leave, he couldn't send the comforter. Shalom, Adawam. Not to just off topic, but Brother Polite was found guilty. Okay, hey, we'll call Yahawashi like the brother said. That's heavy. I wonder if Apostle Tar heard the news. Did you hear the news? Your boss is dead and so are you. Inside joke. All right, so this is the valley of the shadow of death. Now, let's go to a couple of precepts I have here. Let's go to Job, chapter 30. Hey, and that devil, Polite, he was, him, Sarnetta, all of them. And even some of you Israelite groups out there, you still call us, grapists and child molesters and all that shit. The Lord's going to deal with every last one of you, man, that had a hand in that. He started with the snake first. This the same devil that shot up the Bible. Check that out. That's some heavy shit there, man. All right, Job 30:1. But now they that are younger than I have me in what? Derision, whose fathers I will have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. Now, why did it say that Esau was younger than us, even though Jacob was born first? Because they're insignificant. And they're really younger because Jake was already here, pretty much. You know, the sons of God were already here. You know, after the flood, sons of the wicked were wiped out. After the flood, the sons of the righteous were still around. Noah, you know, Shem, so on and so forth. Then, when Abraham had Isaac and Isaac had Jacob and Esau, that's when Esau, the wicked, came back on the earth. So they're really technically younger than us, even though they're older than us, if you understand what I'm saying. Have me what? In derision. What's the word derision mean? The word there is shakwak, shachak, to laugh, play, mock, to laugh, sport, jest, play. Yeah, so pretty much making mockery of us. You know? And during the time of slavery, not only did they make mockery of us, but they were taking Jake and lynching them, cutting off limbs, raping, you know, our women, so on and so forth. So on all levels, these devils got to pay. Now, let's go from there to Amos 9. Now, keep in mind, these are different times, different events where these curses came upon us in different captivities. Amos 9:4, and though they go into captivity before their enemies, thence will I command the sword, and it shall slay them. Among these nations shall thou find no ease. And I will set mine eyes upon them for evil and not for good. See? So, that just shows you that these curses would follow us, like it says in the 44th and 45th verses of Deuteronomy 28. Psalms 106 and 41. Now 106 in part. It says, and he gave them into the hand of the what? Heathen. And they that hated them ruled over them. Their enemies also oppressed them. See? And they were brought into subjection under their hand. Many times, and that's pretty much it right there. That's the main point. We were oppressed by our enemies, Esau and the other nations. Let me get a couple more. Jeremiah chapter 9 and verse 19. I started I started at 17. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye and call for the mourning women, meaning not mourning in the morning, but mourning as far as crying, that they may come, and send for cunning women, that they may come, and let them make haste and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears. Now this is during the Babylonian Empire, but you could also apply that to today, and the Greeks, and so on and so forth. And our eyelids gush out with tears, for the voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? Right, we were spoiled, meaning we were robbed. This is a nation robbed and spoiled. We are greatly confounded because we have forsaken the land, because our dwellings have cast us out. Right. And this is why we were left few in number. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth. And teach your daughters wailing, and every one of her neighbor lamentation. Because the main ones that are getting killed out here, what are the young men, Jake men, just like they were in different captivities. For death is come up into our windows, see? And this happens today. You know, you have so-called stray bullets come through windows, come through walls, you know, kill a baby in the crib, or kill young children, you know, while they're sleeping or while they're in the house, you know? And is entered into our palaces to cut off the children from without, and the young men from the streets, right? The young men, you know, you see Jake in the streets being put to death. This is nothing new, but this is something that would follow our people from captivity to captivity, from generation to generation. All right, now the last one I have for this particular curse is in the book of Job, chapter 7 and verse 4. It says, when I lie down, I say, when shall I rise? And the night be gone, and I am full of tossing to and fro unto the dawning of the day. Would the Most High were evening, or would the Most High were morning? Lord's will we make it to the evening. Lord's will we make it to the next day. Matter of fact, let's see what it says in the morning you will say, if only it were night, see? And in the evening you will say, if only it were morning. For you will be terrified by the awful horrors you see around you. All right? And the 68th verse, pretty much, we've gone over this many times. I'll just go over it real quick. This really don't need any breaking down. I mean, this is broken down. I think this is one of the most broken down scriptures, in the history of Israel. Everybody's gone through this before. Deuteronomy 28:68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Right, when we went into Egypt the first time, didn't go in ships. When we were brought here to when the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and certain of the other tribes were brought here from the west coast of Africa, they were brought here on cargo slave ships. All right, which is also prophesied in Isaiah 22. And we're going to start at the 17th verse. Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. Yeah, so the Lord not only let Israel go into captivity, but also made sure that they got to their destination. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country, right, from the buoyancy of the ships. And also there was a lot of rough patches of weather that Jake had to endure to come over here. On top of the horrific conditions they were subjected to in those cargo slave ships, shitting on each other, pissing on each other, fighting each other just for a little space. There shalt thou die, where? In this land. And there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house. And I will drive thee from thy station, and from thy state shall he put thee down. Right. So from that great position that you were in, we were brought down to a very low condition, very low position. All right. And you could also read Joel, the 3rd chapter, from the 1st verse to the 8th verse, which goes into it. And I'm just going to go straight to the point. Joel 3:6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto what? The Grecians. Now these Grecians was Esau, but they had taken over Europe. Because Esau, the land of Europe does not belong to Esau. When you do the research, the original so-called Europeans were brown-skinned people. You had the Etruscans. You had the Picts, which they got that name from the Romans. They call them the pictorial people because of the markings that they had on their flesh, the tattoos and all of that. Then you had the Minoans, which were inhabiting the Greek islands. And when you go to different pictures of the Minoans or the Etruscans, you see that they were brown-skinned people. They looked like those so-called Polynesian people. And the so-called Polynesian people are known for marking up their bodies with tattoos. The pictorial people, or the Picts. So they were sold to Esau that took over those lands and called themselves Greeks, called themselves Germans, called themselves, by the different names of those different lands, which they changed during the time of the Greeks, because that was one of the first times, or the first time that land masses names were changed, dealing with Esau. Josephus brought that out, that the Greeks were the ones that changed the names of these land masses. Psalms 49:11, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. See, so when they took these different places down, they called them after their own names. So the children of Judah also and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. That's Joel 3:6. So Esau did this. So these are go hand in hand with this prophecy here. And then it goes on to say, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither you have sold them. And where was the place that they sold them? Here in America. And here in America, where they were sold, they were raised up because the Lord raised up the tents of Judah first. You know? And the tents of Judah being raised first helped to wake up the rest of the other tribes. And it's no coincidence that always Judah and Ephraim are always near each other. It's no coincidence that really Ephraim started coming up here. What was that? I believe that was the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, something like that. And you even had a lot of so-called Puerto Ricans, Ephraimites, that fought in World War I. You know, so there's a lot of history where, you know, and it's funny because out of all of those tribes, Ephraim is the only one that has American citizenship because Puerto Rico is a province of America. You know, so they were the first ones here. You know, even though you had Issachar, you know, around also, but Ephraim was like the first, and they're the ones that's really citizens. Not that that means anything, but just the point, because that was the Lord setting it up for Judah and Ephraim to get together. I will bend the bow with Judah and fill the bow with Ephraim. It says, and will return your recompense upon your own head. So the Lord is going to pay these devils back. All right, so Deuteronomy 28:68, and the Lord shall bring thee again into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, because we were told these things. Thou shalt see it no more again, meaning our land. You know, you have others, individuals that try to go to scriptures and say that this is talking about Egypt. You know, but we did see Egypt. You know, you did have Israelites that went up into Egypt. There were Israelites in Egypt that were in captivity. You had Pompey, or Pompey, however you want to call him, that delivered certain Israelites from Alexandria, from slavery, from captivity. You know, that's what they were called, the libertines. You know, so there's a lot of history going on there. You know, but we as a nation, since 70 AD, we haven't gone back to our land, even though you have some Israelites still there. But as a whole, as a nation, we haven't gone back to that land. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, which are slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you. Doesn't mean that no man is going to not purchase you. Matter of fact, let me see what it says in the NLT. This probably goes off. NLT. But no one will buy. Yeah, I figured they were going to go off. It's not talking about buying. Now, the word here in the Hebrew for buy is quanah. It can be used for actual buying and selling merchandise, but it's also used of originating, recreating, redeeming his people, because no man will be able to redeem us. When you go through the different parts, verses in Deuteronomy 28, it speaks about no one saving you, no one delivering you, no one helping you, you know, all throughout, because those curses would not be able to be put off by anyone, and there would be no man that can set up, you know, no so-called leader that will deliver us from these situations and from these curses until Yahawashi comes back, until Shiloh comes back, and to him shall the gathering of the people be. Now, when we go to the word quanah, right, which is the redeeming, when we go to Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, right, and the 6th verse, do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? And right here, bought thee. Bought, no man shall buy you. We go to the word bought. You have the word what? Quanah, once again. So Deuteronomy 28:68, no man shall buy thee, meaning no man shall save thee. No man shall redeem thee. It's going to be Yahawashi, Yahawah Bashem Al-Shai, that comes back to redeem us. So with that, you know, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. I pray that this series has been edifying. Till the next time I say Shalom.